The Haunting of Blackwater Lake. It was a warm summer evening when I decided to go night fishing at Blackwater Lake. The lake was about a 20-minute drive from my house, tucked away in a dense forest that most people avoided after dark. The locals whispered strange tales about it, stories of disappearances, strange figures in the mist, and ghostly lights hovering over the water. But I never believed in that stuff. I just wanted a quiet night, some peace, and maybe a few fish to bring home. I grabbed my gear, packed a thermos of coffee, and headed out. By the time I arrived, the sun had already dipped below the horizon, and a thin veil of mist hovered over the surface of the lake. The water was still, dark, and silent, reflecting the faint moonlight. The air smelled of damp earth and pine, and the only sounds were the occasional hoot of an owl and the rustling of leaves in the wind. I set up on the dock, a rickety old thing that looked like it hadn't been used in years. I cast my line into the water, feeling a strange sense of calm as I settled into my chair. The world around me seemed to disappear, swallowed by the night. The only thing I could hear was the gentle lapping of the water against the dock an hour past. Then too, nothing bit. I didn't mind, though I enjoyed the solitude. But around midnight, something changed. The air grew colder and the mist thickened, rolling in from the trees like smoke. I tightened my jacket around me and poured another cup of coffee, thinking the night had simply turned. But then I noticed something, a faint glow on the far side of the lake. At first, I thought it might be a campfire, but it was too bright and too white. It flickered, moving slightly, as if hovering just above the water. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. There weren't any houses or camps on that side of the lake. Just trees, lots of trees. I stood up, curious. My fishing rod sat untouched beside me as I stared at the light. It moved closer to the center of the lake, slowly, methodically, like it was searching for something, for some reason. My heart began to race. The calm I'd felt all night evaporated, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Then, I heard it. A splash. Not just a ripple, but a deep, echoing splash. Like something heavy had been dropped into the water. I whipped my head around, scanning the lake, but there was nothing. Just the eerie glow in the ever-thickening mist. Another splash, this time closer. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my nerves. Probably just a fish, I told myself, though deep down, I knew that wasn't it. I'd fished this lake for years and never heard a sound like that. Then the rod went slack. I stumbled back, nearly falling into the water. I stared at the limp line, my breath coming in short gasps. Whatever had been on the other end was gone, but I knew it wasn't just a fish. No fish moved like that. No fish had that kind of power. As I sat back down, trying to compose myself, I noticed the glow on the lake had gotten closer. Much closer. It was now hovering about 50 yards from the dock, and I could make out a shape beneath it. Something dark, rising from the water, like a figure standing just below the surface. A chill ran down my spine. I slowly stood up, my eyes locked on the figure. It was motionless, but the glow around it pulsed like a heartbeat. I should have packed up and left right then, but I was frozen, unable to tear my gaze away. Then it moved. It didn't walk or swim. It just glided across the surface, the water beneath it undisturbed. As it got closer, I could make out more details. A tall, thin figure draped in what looked like old, tattered clothes. Its face was obscured by shadow, but I could feel its eyes on me watching, studying. I backed up, my foot catching on the edge of the dock. I stumbled, almost falling into the water, but caught myself at the last second. My heart was racing. My breath shallow, I knew I had to leave, now. But as I turned to grab my gear, I heard a voice, soft, whispering, like it was carried on the wind. It was faint, but I could make out the words. Help me, I froze, my blood turning to ice. The voice was coming from the figure on the lake. It was closer now, only about 20 feet away. I could see its face, or what was left of it. Pale, gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. Its mouth was open, but the voice didn't match the movement of its lips. "Help me." I backed away slowly, shaking my head. "No," I muttered. "I can't. I don't know how." The figure stopped, hovering just a few feet from the dock. Its eyes locked onto mine. And for a moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow, like the weight of centuries of pain pressing down on me. I could feel its desperation, its need for release. But then, something changed. The sorrow turned to anger. The figure's mouth twisted into a snarl, and the once soft voice became a guttural growl. "Help me," it repeated, but this time it was a command, not a plea. The water around the dock began to churn violently, waves crashing against the wood as the mist swirled around me. I grabbed my gear, my hands shaking, and sprinted toward the shore. I didn't look back, not even when I heard the dock splintering behind me, like something massive was tearing it apart. I reached my car, threw my stuff in the back, and peeled out of there as fast as I could. My heart didn't stop racing until I was halfway home, and even then, the image of that figure burned into my mind. I haven't been back to Blackwater Lake since that night, and I never will. Because whatever that thing was, whatever it wanted, it's still out there, waiting for someone to make the same mistake I did. And next time, they might not be as lucky.